it is now October. So if most of you know what that means, it means that Star Wars Terrifying Tales has officially come out. So on Friday, Star Wars Terrifying Tales came out on Disney Plus, and it was honestly a pretty funny Star Wars Halloween special, and it was pretty good follow up to the Lego Star Wars holiday special that we got last year. So I'm going to be doing a whole other video on comparing the two to see which one is better, and just basically comparing some of the characters, the plot, the story, and that's in another video, so subscribe to see that video. But that's not this video. In this video, I'm going to be going over all the Easter eggs and basically just a review of this thing. Now, it was a pretty long 15-minute movie, and I have a bad habit of making some long videos when I do some episode reviews, so I'm gonna try to make this not long, but we're gonna see on the end how long this is. So number one, spoiler before we start this, but if you've already seen it, then I'm just going to give you a couple seconds. And now, sorry guys, if you probably seen it by now because it's been spoiler, so let's get right into it. So the episode opens up on Mustafar, and it appears that it's been when Darth Vader has just finished creating the castle. So then he asks Palpatine how it is, and then Palpatine says, "It's a little on the nose side, don't you think?" I didn't really hear what he said because Palpatine's got, a very deep voice. I am trying to do a pretty good Palpatine impression, but it's probably not going to go out because my mic is terrible. So Vinay, his name is actually Vinay. So Vinay has set up Vader's bubble bath, but Palpatine says, "No, you're going to have to do it later. Right now, we have to conquer the galaxy. I have to sit in my chair for a couple hours." Like how Bombastic said. He sits in his chair and stares into the distance. So that's obviously a reference to how Vinay was the one who was watching Vader when he was in his bath, when he was doing a shower, in Rogue One. So that's a reference to that. And a lot of people were saying, like, who is this guy? And then when they realized, oh yeah, that's the guy that watches Vader do his bubble baths. He sets up his bubble bath. So yeah, that's a bit of a funny thing right there. So then Vader says that Vinay has full control of the castle. So then it goes back many, many years later. And I quote that, many, many years later. So Poe Dameron is fighting the remnants of the First Order, and he says, "Don't you know the First Order is done?" So then when he shoots all of them, he says it's like stealing candy from a baby pork. So that's obviously a reference to how some people say that's like stealing candy. It's like stealing candy from a baby. So stealing candy from baby pork. And he also says something about a wampa, but I couldn't catch what he said. So he crash lands on Mustafar, which is about the worst place in the galaxy to crash on. Like, there's so many other beautiful planets like Naboo or, I don't know, Takodana, but no, he has to crash land on Mustafar, the worst planet. And the place where he crashed has a little bit of trees, but they appear to be dead. So it looks like this part of the planet has not healed yet from because originally Mustafar was actually a lush forest. Then it turned into a lava planet, and now it's turning back into a lush forest. But this part of Mustafar is still a buried wasteland. So he could have at least crash landed in a nicer part of the planet, but I guess he couldn't. So he finds, I'm going to call it Grabala's castle, because Grabala has purchased it from, I guess, the Empire. He still owns it, or maybe it was just unemployed, or I don't know. So the Aurebesh on Darth Vader's castle reads Castle Vader, which is what it's called, Castle Vader. So in front of the Castle Vader, you can see an AT-ST and a modified AT-AT. So Grabala the Hutt, if you remember, or if you haven't seen it, is from Lego Star Wars: The Freemaker Adventures. Which actually, if you haven't gone and checked that out yet, it's actually a pretty funny show. I'm rewatching it right now, and it is actually a pretty funny show. So I definitely recommend, if you liked this and you like the holiday special, then you're definitely gonna like that. So Grabala the Hutt is Jabba's cousin, and he mentions that, "Oh, I'm the famous Hutt," and then Poe doesn't know who he is, and then he's like, "The late Jabba the Hutt's cousin. Rest in peace, Jabba." So they make a mention that Jabba is dead. Poor Jabba, but sorry, he's not a nice guy. So it seems that Poe is a little bit of a celebrity around here, because he says, "We have a celebrity over here." So everybody seems to know Poe, and in fact, they even call him General Poe, which is a reference to how Poe used to be a commander in The Force Awakens. Then he got demoted to captain in The Last Jedi, and then he had a big jump and he got promoted to general for The Rise of Skywalker. That's some good story details there. That's some good stuff from J.J. Abrams. So he gets a tour of the inside of the palace, and then they call BB-8 his luggage. so BB-8 is a bit offended there. And you can definitely tell that they redesigned the BB-8 model and they redesigned Graballa the Hutt. So if we expect some Lego sets from this, then expect them to be redesigned. So then he brings them through the Hall of Troopers, and he has the Shore Trooper, the Storm Trooper, the every troop that you can ever name, and he even has his own trooper of his own creation, which he's called the Skello Trooper, which is basically, kind of looks like a dark trooper. It's got the color of a dark trooper, but it's got like skeletons on it. So they even have a Darth Vader, except this Darth Vader is a little broken. So it's like a animatronic Darth Vader, and it says Dean, and then it says now open, and then it breaks. So then you meet our nice new protagonist, who there's always a kid in Star Wars. It's like Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. There's always a kid because kids are poor and innocent. So this kid's name is Dean, and he actually acts a lot like Rowan from Freemaker Adventures. That was somebody who commented on Basic's video. He mentioned that he actually sounds a lot like Rowan, and I thought exactly that. He literally sounds exactly like Rowan. I don't know if it was the same actor that voiced Rowan Freemaker, but he sounds exactly like Rowan, and his story is almost exactly like Rowan, so you can definitely tell that they took inspiration from Rowan. So he fixes it, kind of like how Anakin is a good fixer. And then you meet the droid in this, whose name is NIL8. So you probably don't recognize anything right now, but if you've seen the episode, which you probably have, NIL8 means annihilate. Yeah, that's some funny stuff from Lucasfilm. NIL8, annihilate. I actually didn't see that coming, and honestly, I don't think any of us saw that coming. So Vinay seems to be obsessed about this prophecy that Pilot will come and help him open the chest to find the secrets of Castle Vader. So then he pulls the mask out of Ren. And I know what you're saying. You mean Kylo Ren, right? No, Ren, who is a totally different character, which we'll meet in a couple of seconds. So then he tells him the story of Ren because Poe is intrigued. So Ren is the leader of the Knights of Ren until Kylo Ren took over. So this story is called The Lost Boy, which is a reference to The Lost Boys, which is, if you haven't heard of it, it's a movie about a bunch of vampires. So you pick up with Ben Solo. I'm just going to call him Ben because it's easier to, it's a bit confusing when I say Kylo Ren and then Ren, so we're just going to call Kylo Ren, Ben, and then Ren. So here we go. So Ben is bored about Luke's training because he thinks he's so much more powerful than all the other Padawans who barely know how to use the Force. So then he ventures off into the city and he finds a group of ragtag people who are the Knights of Ren. So I'm just going to call them the boy band. So the leader, whose name is Ren, has long hair like the main vampire in the movie The Lost Boys. So after that, they start to mess up the town. They're kind of like, they're the graffiti people, the vandalism people. So then later that night, he has a dream that's prompting him to join the Knights of Ren, the boy band. So then when he wakes up, the boy band is creepily standing outside his house. Like, did they read his dream? They're clearly powerful in the Force, so I'm guessing that that's the reason why he had that dream. They were the ones who made him have that dream. So they then have a good night, kind of like how in the Lost Boys, how they're trying to lure him to their side. Then at the end, they tell him that to pledge himself to the dark side, he must burn Luke's castle, which he does not want to do. So then he does not burn his castle. He grabs Luke's lightsaber, and they do a duel between him and Ren. So then he defeats Ren. But then, even though you might think that he's still on the light side because he defeated Ren, he takes over the Knights of Ren and pledges himself to the dark side. So this is kind of like an alternate way of him turning to the dark side, instead of him in his sleep, a boring version of The Last Jedi. In fact, this would be so fun if this was a real way that Ben turned to the dark side. That would be funny and fun, because in The Last Jedi, he was literally sleeping, and then Luke attacked him, which was a bit boring, so this would be a better version. It's a version 2.0. So then, this is the first story, and now we head back to reality. So Poe is like, oh, cool, yeah, cool story. But Vinay wants him to be intrigued about it. So then he tells him that there are secrets hidden in this castle, and Poe wants to help Vinay find these stuff because he's worried that if Graballa finds these stuff, he's just going to sell them to like the Empire or something, or some remnants, some collectors or something. So he just wants to find them because, like Indiana Jones says, it belongs in a museum. So that's basically Poe's thing.
That belongs in a museum.
So they venture deeper into the castle, and you learn that Dean is the reason why Dean is working for Grabala, which why would anybody want to work for a hut? They're slimy creatures. That's a quote from Han, everybody. They're slimy creatures. So he says that Dean says that it's because his his mom was accused of helping the resistance, so he has to work for Grabala to get some money to help his mom out with her shop. So they go through when they're going through the tunnels. Grabala says that now he has more room to put in like a pool room or like an indoor pool or something. So Grabala's all about just he doesn't even care that Dean is going through some financial trouble. He's just going in like, how can he make more money? So then you figure out also Dean wants to be a pilot, and then once they venture deeper into the castle, you find a big room, and they find a whole bunch of lightsabers. So all these lightsabers, and then one of them is a different lightsaber. You can tell that it's a different Lego mold, and this is the lightsaber of Skylord or something, I don't know. So then we get to the second terrifying tale called The Dueling Monstrosities, which I tried to look it up, and The Dueling Monstrosities is not a reference to anything, and if it is, tell me in the comments below. So Vinay mentions that Obi-Wan got cut in half, and then you see the Night Sisters who are trying to fix Maul, put him back together. So they try some Grievous legs, they try a BB-9E body, but then they settle for the spider legs that you saw in the Clone Wars. So Grievous, you also see the transformation from Grievous to Cyborg, and then Palpatine calls on Grievous to find the lightsaber of Shirek. But then Maul also comes and tries to prove himself worthy again, so then he also hears about Shirek's lightsaber and tries to head to go find the lightsaber. So then, once they get there, you see Grievous kill a couple Lego Gundarks, which is cool because we never got to see any Lego Gundarks. Gundarks are the thing that Han mentions to Luke. He says, "You look strong enough to pull the ears off a Gundark."
He looks strong enough to pull the ears off a Gundark.
So then, Grievous gets the lightsaber, and his eyes turn red as a powerful corruption of the red lightsaber. And then you get a quick battle between Grievous and Maul, which is something that we never saw again. And then answers a pretty age-old question on who wins between Grievous and Maul, because Maul is the Sith Lord, but Grievous can't argue.
General Grievous!
So Maul battles him, and then Maul gets cut in half again. But then, since Maul has the Force, he uses the Force to cut off Grievous's hand and his leg, and then he pushes him over the cliff. So that answers the question. Maul will win between the fight between Grievous and Maul. So Maul comes back with the lightsaber, and Palpatine's like, "Ooh, gimme," like how he said in the Freemaker Adventures. But then he's like, "No, I'm gonna turn against you." And then Palpatine just pushes him over the edge of the balcony, evil Palpatine. And that answers another age-old question on who would win between Maul and Palpatine. It wasn't really a debate because it's a pretty simple answer. Palpatine would obviously win. So Dean fixes the lightsaber, and they open a door, and then they enter the third room and the last terrifying tale again. So this room is filled with a bunch of loot and a holocron, and Vinay says that can grant any wish, trying to lure Dean to the dark side. So terrifying tale number 3 is called The Wookiee's Paw, which is a reference to The Monkey's Paw, which is a book that was released in 1902 and then became a movie. So in this alternate what if, Luke got anything that he wished. So he wanted to, first of all, a quick reference is that he said he wanted to go to Tosche Station to pick up some, and I didn't hear what he said after that. I know it wasn't power converters, but he said he wanted to go to Tosche Station to pick something else up. So Watto gives Luke the Wookiee's Paw, and then he wishes to become a stormtrooper, but then he's not satisfied with that. He wants more. So he hits his head when he's a stormtrooper, which is a reference to how that stormtrooper hit his head in A New Hope. Then he becomes a TIE fighter pilot, and then he proves himself to Vader and becomes a Sith trainer. So he's in training with Vader. So Vader's on Luke's back, which is a reference to how Yoda was on Luke's back and they were doing their training. And then you see the music from A New Hope, and then when there's that gap, and then Luke jumps over the gap, Vader gives Luke a kiss, which is a reference to how when Leia was holding on to him and he swung across there. So then during the battle of, now that he's been training, now it's the battle of Yavin. So Obi-Wan is Red 5, which was who Luke was, and then Leia is Red 2, which is who Wedge Antilles was. So in this alternate reality also, Wedge Antilles never turned to the dark side. He must have never defected or something. So that's interesting, and it's too bad that's not brought up. So you hear Leia say the line, you hear Obi-Wan say the line to Leia, you can't do any more good down here, which is a reference to how Luke said to Wedge, you can't do any more good down here, and told him to fly away. So then Luke is getting ready, and he wants to prove himself by blowing up Leia and Obi-Wan, but then he accidentally shoots some proton torpedoes and blows up the Death Star again, which is honestly hilarious. Honestly, I didn't see that coming again. So Poe says it's fake and that's not what happened, but then Vinay's like, so then Luke didn't blow up the Death Star? So he's kind of twisting his words because Luke did blow up the Death Star, but not like that. So now Dean, who's sensitive with the Force, which I honestly did not see that coming. This is the third thing that I didn't see coming.
You didn't see that coming?
And I don't get how I didn't see that coming because the kid is always Force sensitive. I don't know how I didn't see that coming, and it's honestly a little bit embarrassing. But Dean is Force sensitive, and because he gets pulled by the dark side, he opens the Sith holocron, and now Vinay uses it to power up a mech suit, and he jumps in a giant mech suit, and he pulls a bunch of the stuff together, and it turns out that all those stories that we were learning about were meant for him, because Kylo Ren, he wanted more power, which is what Vinay wants. Maul, he wanted to prove himself again, which is what Vinay wants. And Luke, who wanted more stuff, who wasn't satisfied with what he wants to prove himself that he's more. That's what Vinay wanted. So then you get the realization that Annihilate is Annihilate, which I already told you at the beginning. So now all those droids that were working at the beginning, who were the workers who were building the castle, now turn against now turn against Poe and Dean. So then you see one of the droids who axes the door and then says, here's B11845667 or whatever his numbers were, and that's reference to here's Johnny from The Shining. So then they escape past Vinay, and Poe disguises himself in a skeleton disguise, the skeleton trooper that I was talking about earlier. So they arrive at Poe's ship, and then Poe's like, oh no, I didn't fix my ship, but then Dean is able to fix his ship. So Poe decides to distract Vinay while Dean flies the ship and starts shooting at it. So he hijacks an AT-ST and starts shooting at an AT-AT, but then he gets thrown out of the AT-ST. So then Vinay has him in a grip, and he's holding him in his hand, and he tells Dean, give me the holocron or I kill Poe. So then Dean throws the holocron over the lava, and then Vinay goes for the jump to try to grab the holocron, but that's a mistake because he falls into the lava, and now he is dead. Or is he? So they get Graballa to leave the planet, and they tell him that he can't just steal what's in this castle, and then Dean quits and decides to join the rebellion. So then after that, when you think the episode's done, you see Annihilate jump his way out of the lava, and then you see he says, oh no, my master is dead, and then you see an arm pull up of the lava and grab Annihilate, and then acting like he's trying to pull himself out. So is Vinay alive, and will this mean a sequel to this LEGO Star Wars Halloween special? You'll have to watch my video on what the next holiday special is going to be to figure it out. So that is the LEGO Star Wars Terrifying Tales. I know I probably made this video really long, and I don't want to make it longer by talking a lot at the end, but I definitely did enjoy this special. I will be making a video, like I said, on this versus the Star Wars Holiday Special, so you can go watch that video when it comes out. I'll leave a link in the pinned comment below. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and bye.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
So be it, Jedi. Huh?